Good day, everyone. So I am going to discuss to you about Mathematics 9 Quarter 2 Module 1, which is direct and inverse variation. But um, this module was divided into two lessons. We have lesson 1 for direct variation and lesson 2 for inverse variation. But in my previous videos, I already discussed about the lesson 1, which is direct variation. So we will just go now on the lesson 2, which is the inverse variation. So but before that, so we have these competencies, so to be able to illustrate situations that involve the following variation, specifically the inverse variation. And next is to translate into variation statement a relationship between two quantities given table of values, mathematical equation, a graph, and vice versa. So another is to be able to solve problems involving variation, to be able to identify, okay, after answering the module, you must be able to identify inverse variation, illustrate situation involving inverse variations, and translate into variation statement a relationship involving involving inverse variation between two quantities given a table of values and a mathematical equation, and to be able to solve problems involving inverse variation. So let's proceed to lesson 2. So this is our lesson 1. This was already discussed in my previous video. So let's proceed to lesson 2. Our lesson 2, okay. Our lesson 2 is inverse variation. So we have here what's in. So consider the table of values below. We have a question here. What have you observed with the values of y? What have you observed with the values of y? Okay, values of y. Okay, what have you observed about the values of y as x increases? So as x increases here, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So as the values of x increases, what have you observed with the values of y? So what have you observed? So you can just see it. You can see based on the values of y. What equation describes the relation between x and y? So can you formulate an equation based on these givens here? Okay, so next. What's new? So let us consider the situation below. Okay, Hans lives 20 kilometers away from the city where he works. Driving his car takes him to reach his work depends on his average speed. Some possible speed and the length of time it takes him are as follows. So meaning we have the table here. These are the time in hours and the speed in kilometer per hour. So in 1 hour, it says here that it will take him 50 kilometers per hour. Okay, in time in hour. Then this is the speed. In 1 hour, it takes 50 kilometer, or the car runs 50 kilometer per hour. Then we have here 5 over 6 is 60 kilometer per hour. Then 5 over 7, 70 kilometers per hour, and 5 over 8 is 80 kilometers per hour. How do the speed and time of travel affect each other? What can you say about the time? Is it increasing or is it decreasing? Then how about the speed? So how do the speed and time affect each other? So what can you say? Then base here we have 1 hour, it takes or it runs 50 kilometers per hour. Then if it is 5 over 6 hours, that is 60 kilometers per hour, and so on and so forth. Write a mathematical statement to represent the equation. So how are you going to write an equation based on this table? Okay, so as we go on, you will learn. Then number 3, is there a constant number involved? Explain the process that you have been used in finding out. Okay, next. So you are going to explain it there. So next is the situation in the problem shows an increase in speed, a decrease in time in traveling. So based from here, as the speed increases, the time is decreases. This is 1 hour. 5 over 6 is less than 1 hour. 5 over 7 is less than an hour, so going down. So meaning as the time, as the speed increases, the time decreases. Okay, so based from there. So the situation produces pair of numbers whose product is constant. Okay, here the time t varies inversely as the speed s such that st is equal to 50, which is the constant. So 50. So in this situation, the speed s is inversely proportional to the time. So it is written as s equals to k over t. It should be k over t. And dito dapat yung t. Itong t, it should be here. It should be here. Ito, this one. This must be s equals k over t. Okay, so ito yun. Ito dapat. Okay, so wherein k is the proportionality constant or the constant of t variation. So hence, the equation represented in the table and graph is 50, which is s, equals to 50, which is our constant. Okay, 50 over t. This should be t here. This should be 50 over t. Okay, that's it. Next, what is it? So the situation in the previous activity is an example of inverse variation. So what is an inverse variation? Inverse variation occurs whenever the situation produces pair of numbers whose product is constant. So for two quantities x and y, an increase in x causes a decrease in y. So an increase in x causes a decrease in y, or vice versa. So we can say that an increase in y, a decrease in x causes an increase in y. So it can be vice versa. So we can say that y is varies inversely as x, which is in symbol, we can write that as y equals k over x, or y equals to k times 1 over x. Or you can also write that as x times y equals 10, equals k rather, because it says here that a pair of numbers whose product is constant. So Ito yon. So, a pair of numbers, which is the product, is constant. Or you can also write this as y varies inversely as x. So, the statement y varies inversely as x can be translated to, this must be like this. This k must be written here. Okay, over x. Yan. So, dapat ganun yan. Where k is the constant of variation. So, constant, when you say constant, it doesn't change. So, yung k nandyan lang. It is constant. Yun. So, illustrative example. So, we have an illustrative example here. So, if y varies inversely as x, and y equals 5 and x equals 15, find the equation and solve for k. Okay, so we're going to solve for the constant. But based from here, you have there this one. This is very important. That statement there. That statement is y varies inversely as x. Based from here, you can formulate an equation, which is now this one. Y is varies inversely as x, which is written in this form. But then our y is given. Your y is 5. Okay? Your y is 5 and your x is 15. Okay? So substituting the values of x and y, dapat ito x and y, and y values to find k. So substituting, we have, this is 5 and your k is unknown because we're still solving for k, and you have your x is 15. So based from here, okay, we can just multiply this both sides by 15. So both sides by 15. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'll just erase this one. Okay, so and we will multiply also on the other side by 15. So canceled out this one and this. So k is 5 times 15, which is 75. Okay, so therefore, what is the equation? So based from here, based from this equation formulated, you can now substitute the value of k, which is, okay, we will rewrite. Y is equals to k over x. What is your k? Your k is 75. 75. And your, okay, yan, x. So therefore, based from here, okay, based from here, your equation now is y equals 75 over x. So that is now your equation. Okay, so yan. Then next, number 2. The table shows that y varies inversely as x. Find the constant of variation and the equation which describes the relation. So here, again, since the statement is y varies inversely as x, so again, you're going to translate that into an equation, and which is this one. Dapat over x yan. Nandito ang x, oh. Erase natin yan dyan. Okay, wala na yan. So, y varies inversely as x, which is written in this way. So, using one pair of values, okay, you can use any pair here. So, but based from this example, you will only use one pair, which is 2 and 36. This is the value of x. Ito yung value of y. Okay. So, from the table, substitute the values of y and x in the equation. So, the equation here must be this one. Ito ang equation. So, this must be k over x. Okay, to solve for k. So, itong x na to, dapat yan dito yan, over x. Okay. So, based from the given equation again, y is equal to k over x. But your y is 36. And your x is 2. So, nandito sa baba. So, pareho lang na. So, multiply both sides by 2 to eliminate 2. Okay, so we will just apply the property. Multiply natin both sides by 2. So we can cancel this one and this. Ang maiiwan na lang is k. So 36 times 2 is 72. So therefore that is your k. So replacing, so therefore we can say that the constant of variation, etong k is the constant of variation, which is 72. So therefore the equation now is y based from here, okay, y, your k is 72 over x, that is x. Okay, itong x na to, wala na yan dyan, dapat yan dito, x. So therefore that is now the equation of the table, the given table. So yun, so you can just choose any pair, okay, pair of numbers here in the table, pair of values. So next, number 3, find the constant variation and write the equation which represents the graph below. Okay, this is the graph. Okay, so we have here when x, this is your width rather. Okay, this is the width which is which represents as w, and this is the length which is represents by L. So if the width is 2, your length is somewhere almost 6. Okay, so that is like 5.75, something like. And okay, so here when itong 1, dapat dito yan, 1, 2, 3, 4, dito yan sa line, 5, itong 6, dito yan sa line, 6, and this must be 7. So the same here. And then, I think may mali yung point. Dapat dito yan ang point, oh. Ito dapat yung point, dapat. And then, correction lang po natin. Yan po. So, dapat yan ang point. And then, ito. Okay, yan. Okay, here. Since the length is inversely proportional as the width, so we have length is equal to k. So the word there, the keyword there is length is inversely proportional as width. So this is just the same as saying as length is varies inversely as width, or we can also say as length is inversely proportional as the width W. So the same lang yun. So you can write that as length equals to K over W. Wala na yan. Erase natin to. Typography, bali na move lang yan. So it should be written in this way. So this must be now the equation based from the given statement. Next, using 1 point. Okay, so using 1 point, which is 2, 6. Okay, we have this. So, tama po tayo. Yung point po dapat nandito sa intersection kasi when when W is 2, the length is 6. So, using 1 point here, which is 2, 6, okay, 2, 6, from the graph, substitute the value of W and L in the equation L equals K over W and solve for K. So, erase natin yan. Okay, here. So, based from the equation, your length is 6. Your width is 2. This is width. Then, this is your length. Okay. Then, so again, replacing the value of length and width, then you just multiply both sides by 2. So, multiply both sides by 2. So, we can cancel this one. So, para maging K equals 2 times 6 is 12. So, therefore, the constant of variation is the constant of variation is 12. And the equation now is Y. It should be L. This must be L. Erase natin yan. This must be L equals 12 over W. This must be the equation. Okay. So, you can now express the following statement into mathematical equations. So, the same process as here. First, you're going to translate. So, given the activity here, there are 3. So, you must be able to translate this into mathematical statement, meaning you are just going to write it in equation form. So, you are going to consider number 1, the number of hours varies inversely as the number of machines, and then number of rice cake slice varies inversely as the number of persons. Then the temperature T varies inversely as the number of feet. So there are 3 equations. Then number 2, you are going to answer the following. That is, okay, number 1, the given is activity 2. Again, the statement is X varies inversely as Y varies inversely as X. So write the equation first and then replace the value of Y and X and solve for K before you solve for Y. The same process with number 2. So after that, you were asked to summarize what you have learned from this lesson and provide a real life situation that involves inverse variation. So you're going to illustrate the relationship between 2 quantities using the table of values, a graph, and an equation. So here you are just going to write check or X. So you are going to identify if it is an inverse variation or not. So put check if it is, and if it is not, you just write X. So just read the given phrase and just put a check or an X. If it is an inverse variation, then check, and if it is not, therefore it is X. So assessment, for the assessment, you just write the letter that corresponds to the correct answer. So that's it. So that is your assessment. Okay. So that's all for today, and this is for the lesson 2, inverse variation. So that's it. So hope you will you have learned something from this lesson. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching.